In the quiet village of Yumyuk, nestled between thick green forests and a lazy river, there lived a woman everyone feared and mocked. Her name was Adanne. Once a promising daughter of the land, she was now called Era, the madwoman. She roamed barefoot, her once glorious hair now a tangled crown of thorns. Her wrapper, patched with old fabric and tied in a haphazard fashion, barely held onto her slim, scarred body. Children threw stones at her. Women clutched their baskets tighter when she passed. Men laughed, calling her the queen of madness. But what they didn't know was that Adanne was listening, watching, and waiting. Once upon a time Adanne had dreams larger than Yumyuk. She was the top student at her university, destined for greatness. But tragedy struck after a terrible betrayal. Her fiancé embezzled all her savings and disappeared. Then her parents died in a car accident. The shock broke her spirit. She walked into the forest one day, and when she returned she was no longer the same. They said madness had claimed her. But madness had only opened another door. Every night, Adanne disappeared into the forest, talking to herself, sometimes laughing, sometimes screaming. But if anyone had dared to follow her, they would have seen the strange lights glowing where she walked. They would have seen her speaking to people no one else could see. Guardians, spirits, ancient minds of the earth. In her madness, she had connected with forces far beyond the ordinary. And one night, as she lay beside the river, mumbling words in a forgotten dialect, she had a vision. A golden scroll floated down from the sky. In it were numbers, codes, patterns. She sat up and began to scribble into the wet sand over and over, until the formulas burned themselves into her memory. The spirits had spoken. They had shown her a formula that could change the world. That night, she walked back into the village and into the old abandoned primary school building where she had made her home. She took a piece of charcoal and wrote the formula on the walls. And then, she waited for the final sign. It was on the first night of the New Yam festival that a man arrived in Yumyuk. He wore a gray suit, carried a silver briefcase, and spoke with a strange accent. His name was Dr. Raj Patel, an Indian-American tech entrepreneur who had spent years studying ancient knowledge systems and artificial intelligence. He had heard stories of a madwoman in a forgotten village in Africa, who spoke in codes that matched lost equations from ancient civilizations. The villagers laughed at him. That one, Adanne. She's mad. She bathes in the river with frogs. What could she possibly know? But Dr. Patel wasn't deterred. That evening he went to the old schoolhouse. Adanne was drawing again, her charcoal scribbles covering the cracked cement floor. "Hello," he said softly. "I've come for the code." She didn't respond, but she pointed to the wall. He spent the night transcribing it. And at dawn he made a phone call to Silicon Valley. The formula Adanne wrote turned out to be a new algorithm, an AI pattern recognition system 20 years ahead of anything else in the world. It could read emotions, language, patterns, and even predict stock markets, disease outbreaks, and natural disasters with terrifying accuracy. Within a week, Dr. Patel formed a new tech company, MadCode Inc. Adanne was listed as the co-founder and majority shareholder. Within 2 months, tech billionaires were investing. Global companies lined up to license the algorithm. Governments wanted in. The media tried to uncover the mysterious woman behind the revolution. Back in Yumyuk, the villagers noticed something strange. One morning, several trucks drove into the village. Out came people in suits, engineers, builders. They knocked down the old school building. In its place they built a massive research center. And at the center of it all, Adanne sat on a white throne-like chair. Her hair braided in gold, her wrapper now fine silk. She still muttered to herself, still laughed at nothing. But she was no longer just mad. She was a billionaire. The same people who mocked her lined up at the gates. Kayamika, her former best friend who once accused her of witchcraft, came kneeling. Adiz Baiko, forgive me. I didn't know. Chief Anazi, who once chased her away from his compound, came with gifts. Great Adiz, Queen of Tech, our daughter. But she only smiled. Small, strange smile. Then came her ex-fiancé, dressed in fake Gucci, older and thinner. He had heard the news on CNN. He begged to see her. My love, I made a mistake. Let us start again. I always believed in you. She stared at him, her eyes unfocused. Then she whispered, I spoke to the spirits. They told me to forgive you, but not to forget. She waved her hand. Security escorted him out. With her billions, Adiz began building across Africa. Technology hubs, schools for the gifted, centers for mental health. She insisted on hiring people society had labeled as mad, weird, or unstable. Those who hear what others cannot are not mad. They are just tuned differently, she said in her first public speech, streamed worldwide. She donated millions to orphanages, built homes for the homeless, funded research into mental health. But she never left Yumyuk. She stayed in the village that mocked her, right where they had thrown stones. Because Adiz wasn't just building an empire of wealth. She was building a legacy. On the one-year anniversary of Mad Code Incorporated, Adiz called a press conference. She wore white that day. Her eyes sparkled, and she laughed louder than ever. Tonight, I shall leave you with one more code, she said, pulling out a scroll she had kept hidden. This is for the next generation, the ones who will hear whispers in the wind and see visions in the rain. Do not be afraid of madness. Sometimes the path to greatness is paved with thorns and silence. She handed the scroll to a young boy with autism. The cameras captured it. The world watched in awe. That night, Adiz disappeared into the forest once more. They say she walked into the river and vanished. Some say she returned to the spirits. Others say she lives in the wind, whispering secrets to children who dare to listen. But one thing is certain. They mocked her madness. But she built an empire in one night. Then,